Welcome to the Fairfax Sports Report. If you think it's been hot outside recently, what do you see the scorching show we have here tonight? I am your host, John Marcario. To the left of me is Paul Frummel. We have a special guest in the house tonight, the defending girls soccer Northern Region champion Centerville Wildcats. We have head coach Warren Williams and two of his players here. We'll talk all about Centerville Wildcats soccer and girls soccer during the early portion of this show. For you loyal FSR viewers, you will notice BJ Kubarulis is not with us tonight. He is out reporting on assignment. But for you Kubarulis fans, if you need your fix, because I know I do, he'll be calling in to give us his special report on the FSN Game of the Week for lacrosse. But before we get this show started, we need to thank the people that make it possible. That's right, our underwriters. CCI Screen Printing for all your screen printing needs. Give them a call at 703-978-0257. Wally Care Service Center, servicing all makes and models. Call them up at 703-383-6299. And Triple Edge Lacrosse. Visit them at www.tripleedgelax.com. Now, before we get into some soccer, we have some news and notes to report. Breaking news, I reported this story earlier today. Hayfield has announced a new boys basketball head coach. Ronald Palmer, a very good hire. He comes from Long Beach Polytechnic High School. He brings with him a wealth of experience. He was there for 25 years. His accolades include 19 district championships, 15-time regional finalist, 8-time regional champion, 1-time state champion, and 1-time national champion. Palmer brings the Hawks to the credentials they have been looking for. DSA Steve Kewer said that he felt that he is the Morgan Wooten of the West Coast. Watch out for Hayfield next year. Also on the girls basketball side, Paul Fisher of Lake Braddock has stepped down after 8 seasons at the helm. The Bruins will be looking to fill that position over the next couple of weeks. Now, Paul, tonight we have the Centerville Wildcats here. Give the people a little some knowledge about them before we ask them a few questions.
Well, the Centerville Wildcats right now at 6-0. We have head coach Warren Williams, senior Morgan Benz, and senior Kate Tysinger here with us. Just recently beat Annandale 7-0. And coach, first question right off the bat, you said after the Annandale game, these seniors are hungry. These seniors had a little taste of the state tournament last year, but they want the whole meal. Talk about what you see from your seniors.
Well, that's been one of the nicest surprises for me this year is how well they've helped me. And they've been to the state tournament twice now, once as freshmen and once as juniors, and they really, they know what it takes. I think we hope they know what it takes to get to that next level, and that's really what they're concentrating on, game in and game out.
Now, you talk about the senior leadership. How important is that in such a tough Northern region? Everybody knows about the teams up top. Everybody knows about the Lake Braddocks. But your team, defending Northern Region champion, 1 game away from the state title last year, undefeated this year, just silly goals against average. How have you been able to do it, and how important is that senior leadership going to be for you?
Soccer is a game of you need some sort of luck, and you're looking for any sort of edge that you can get anyways. And having seniors around that have been through the wars once or twice, it makes things a lot easier for all of us. And they're around day in, day out at practice, and they can, I hear them saying, all right, let's go, we need to step up at certain times, and that's really nice. It lets me concentrate on coaching, and they take care of the motivation and a lot of that sort of stuff.
And Morgan, what have the seniors done, especially this year, for the team to keep the team motivated during this tough region schedule?
I think just letting the team know, the experience of going to states, and just before every practice, maintaining our focus at practice, before games, and just at all times thinking about the future, basically.
Last year, losing 3 starters, including Emily Jukic. Everybody, if they watch this show, knows about Emily Jukic, one of the best players from the Northern Region last year. A little bit of stats here. Last year, the team was 18-3-1, won the Northern Region title, and made it to the state semifinals. Last year at this time, the team was had a goals against of 8 and scored 20 goals. This year, 28 goals to 1. So what do you think the difference is there? You're scoring more goals, you're allowing less. What do you think it is?
We were talking about that beforehand, and what you were saying about the number of people scoring. I think we've had 11 different goal scorers, and last year Emily got a bunch and Patty got a bunch, but a lot of times we sort of felt like you knew where they were coming from. This year, they're coming from all angles and all different people and places. You had 2 defenders and 6 midfielders and 4 people up front. So, I think that makes it tougher to say we're going to stop X, Y, or Z player. We're sharing the wealth pretty well.
Looking at the competition you've had so far, you beat Langley 4-1. That was the only goal that you have allowed this year. Then beat Washington and Lee 7-0. Lake Braddock 5-0. Fairfax 3-0. Chantilly 2-0. And there's on the screen there. And Annandale 7-0. You've scored, like I said, 28 goals and allowed only 1. And again, last year you had losses to Chantilly and Lake Braddock, teams that you beat this year. So what do you think the difference is there?
A lot of it, I think a lot of it is the seniors, which we talked about a couple different times, but just the drive that this group seems to have. They're very driven and step up to challenges when they present themselves. I think it was tied at half with Chantilly. In the second half, we came out pretty strong. That's really been the big difference, I think.
And shutting out, you mentioned after the Annandale game, you said the defense puts the pressure on the other teams, and they get chances, but they kind of waste those chances. They kind of shoot when they can go up a little bit more because they feel pressure. Talk a little more about that.
Well, we at our practices, we do a lot of possession type things, and I think that helps us. We as a team put a lot of pressure on people. We're pretty fast. I think that's a safe statement. Jordan and Kate and Erica Pinto are all extremely fast, and they close space very quickly, and we pressure from the top, from the forwards with Kate and Jenna and Katie Cramp. In the midfield pressures the ball, and we close up the back, and we try not to give any easy balls. That's one of the things we've tried to do.
Girls, one thing I noticed against Annandale is young players. Jenna Richmond had 2 goals. What are you seeing from the younger crop of girls this year?
I think they have drive too as well, just to even get the experience. We talk about states all the time. And we're like, wow, it's really great. It's really fun, and they want to make it there too. So
I don't know. I think we're all really close, like even with the freshmen and talking with them. I think us just talking with them and like experiences from the past couple years, it's really like made them want it even more and realize like how big of a deal and like how much we want this, and our intensity has just gone up a lot. So
now let's take a look at some of the top Wildcat goal scorers this year. Coming in front is Morgan with 6 goals and 1 assist. Jenna Richmond with 5 goals and 6 assists. Erin Edmondson with 3 goals, no assists. Erica Pinto with 3 goals, no assists. And Katie Cramp and 8 Wildcats have scored 2 goals this season. Katie has 7 assists also. Again, another thing, comparing from this year to last year. Last year, Emily had 7 goals at this time. Morgan's right there with 6. What are you seeing from Morgan especially? She is right next to you, but
she gets a lot of opportunities. I think she takes advantage of the opportunities that she's given. But the 3 players we have up top right now, Kate and Jenna and Katie Cramp, get the ball in very deep, and they do a great job finding our midfielders coming through. I think that's how we've gotten quite a few balls, is balls that were taken to the end line, laid back. So
Now, Coach, we have your goalkeepers having 4 saves for the year. What is your defense doing where nobody is even getting shots on goal?
I think there's probably more than 4 shots. I don't know. Shots we have a hard time counting, I guess. I think that I think it's the pressure we put on people, and it's we've got excellent defenders as well. We've got 2 girls in the back who are seniors who've played with us for 4 years now, or 4 with Brittany and 3 with Carly. And Jordan Grant's a junior, and she plays in the middle, and she's been with us for 3 years. So, that really helps us. And the other thing that we've really done a pretty good job with is limiting other teams' midfielders. A lot of teams are playing 2 up top against us, and our 3 in the back are holding them pretty well. And our midfielders have been stepping in when they needed to as well.
Coming up, looking at your upcoming schedule, you have Westfield. You have Westfield on the 26th, Robinson on the 30th, moving along to Stonebridge, Mount Vernon, Oakton, Herndon, and Yorktown. You see on the screen, 6 of the last 7 games are on the road. That's actually a correction. It's 5 out of the last 7 games are on the road. Oakton, it had turned into a doubleheader
Because of rain.
because of rain. So, Coach, looking at Westfield coming up, Westfield Centerville classic rivalry in every sport. What are you seeing from the Bulldogs in your next game, like tomorrow?
Yeah. I tell the girls, a rivalry, sort of, you throw everything out the window. I'm a Penn Stater, so when we played Pitt, it didn't matter. It was Pitt, Penn State, and that's sort of the way it is with Westfield. They've, we're the neighborhood school, us and Chantilly, and so everything's out the window. And they've played us tough the last couple of years. So,
girls, how do you not underestimate a team like Westfield?
I just think in the past, the game has always been close because I think both teams just kind of want it like just more than like any other game playing, and I think everyone gets more excited for playing Westfield than all year, and I think they do the same to us. So both teams just go out and like play harder than they ever have. So I don't know, we're just excited to play tomorrow night. So we'll see.
Miss Williams tells us every year, Westfield always has their year. They're going to get their year to beat us because, they haven't yet. And so we're all just like, no, not this year, not this year. And so I think that gets us kind of riled up and pumped up for the game. And just the field is just awesome. Like, I love playing in that stadium, and it's really fun playing there. So.
Now, before I ask a question about Robinson, I have to ask the players something. You mentioned how you said states are really excited. How do you stay focused during the regular season and win the games that you have to, knowing the success you've had in the state tournament, and knowing you can beat teams at the state level? What keeps you motivated during the tail end of the regular season?
The games in the regular season are always challenging. It's not just a walk in the park. And so you have to think about the games we're playing now is going to lead us to states. So you can't just automatically think, we can beat people in states at the state level. It's now is what makes us be able to beat people at the state level. So it's practice, basically.
Now, Coach, you face Robinson up next. For people that don't know about the Rams, they are undefeated this year. They sport the roster that has 9 freshmen. They have a sharpshooter in Audrey Berry. She has 4 goals. They just tied Lake Braddock yesterday, 2-2, a very good tie for them. What do you know about the Rams, and what kind of challenges can a young team that knows nothing about anything pose for your experienced squad?
Well, Coach Reich's been there a couple of years, so he knows a little bit about something. So, and we've played them the last 3 years since they've been in the district, and essentially, I think when you get in the northern region in any district, but Concord, Patriot, you know that every game is going to be a difficult game. So, I'm sure they're going to be ready to play us, and I hope we're ready to play them as well.
Looking back at the schedule, you have 7 games, more than half a season, in 2 weeks because of inclement weather in the first part of the season. How do you, stay rested, stay motivated during, a brutal 7-game schedule in over 2-week period?
Ice baths.
Ice baths. We give them days off. If on those weeks where we have 3 games, we'll give them, a day off, and then, the other day where we do practice, it's more of a walkthrough. We'll talk about set pieces. We'll talk about what the next team's going to do. Because they're playing on the week. A lot of the girls are playing on the weekend. So, I try real hard. And throughout the season, our practices are an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, no longer. Because, they are playing so much that I've sort of come to the conclusion that rest is a little bit better than that extra half an hour of work when they're really going to be tired anyway.
So you're seeing it is, with a team like this, with senior heavy, with the leadership of seniors, is it less teaching these fundamentals, less practicing, and more of kind of getting them in a mental mindset?
Yeah, no. I mean, we do things differently year to year. Even though we've got a core of players back from last year, anytime you fold one player in, it totally changes the dynamics of the rest of the team. So, early on in the season, even though we weren't getting games, we were getting a lot of good, touches on the ball in practice that I think's paying off and working well now. So, you know, we hope that early work in the season is going to pay off later.
Now, right now, 6-0. How much is an undefeated season in anybody's mind? Nothing.
No.
Not at all. You don't think so? Would you prefer to have a loss now to instead of in the playoffs? Obviously, so right now it's not really in anybody's.
I mean, I think it it gives us other teams put a target on us, like Mr. Williams says, so it gives us a little bit of an incentive to work harder and play harder. What do you think?
I would rather lose one now, only because when playoffs start, I mean, one game and you're done. So, I mean, right now, and then playoffs, it's like one game at a time, and now it's just like, I would rather lose one now than, I'm not saying, but undefeated, I mean, doesn't really mean as much right now, but, yeah.
I don't think anybody had even thought about that until right
Yeah.
Okay, well, so I put the seed in your mind. I take away the question. It never happened.
For the players, what did you learn in last year coming very close to making, your eyes just got real big. What kind of lessons did you learn that you're hoping to take forward this year and make it to that next step?
Basically, it is one game at a time in playoffs, and I think that's what we need to kind of teach to the younger girls. Like, we keep looking ahead to other games now in the season, but when playoffs start, it is one game at a time. It doesn't matter who it is. And when we did lose our game, it just kind of I think we were kind of looking at the championship more, and just we wanted that so bad, but we need to handle each game, I think, just one at a time. And I think, I don't know, you'll get further if you just take it like that.
Now, what's the biggest difference between this year's team and last year's team that you think will enable you to be able to do that step?
I think we're balanced.
Yeah.
I mean, we get goals from a lot of different people, and honestly, I think this is my 8th year or whatever, but with the defensive pressure we put on people, and is a lot more than any team I've been associated with, and that's not, you can teach defensive systems, but I think that's more of a reflection on just drive and heart and the way these girls are looking at things right now. So I think that the balance and the defensive pressure we put on people are the two things I think.
I think the difference also too is that we lost last year, and it just, like you said, it gives us that hunger. So.
Quick last question: what team in the Northern Region do you think can give you the most trouble?
Robinson, Lake Langley. I mean,
Every single upcoming game.
Honestly, there are on any given night in the Northern Region, there are quality soccer players all over the Northern Region. You look at any rankings around or whatever, and any of those teams. Chantilly was 1-0 until the last minute, right? So, and soccer's the type of game that it takes one trip to you can dominate a whole game. So I don't know. Once we get to playoffs, there's not a team I want to play.
I know.
Do you think that prepares you then for the playoffs, playing this tough schedule?
I hope so. That's one of the things when we plan the schedule year and that we try to get teams that traditionally are quality teams. So.
Now, before we let you skedaddle on out of here, I have to ask you, there's one score in here. The Lake Braddock won 5-0. Now, for people that don't know soccer, that's about 49-0 in football and 10-0 in baseball. Was that a game that was kind of start on the calendar on the offseason? The defending state champs, they beat the team that you guys lost to, or did you just go into that game saying, new season, started out right?
They were a little banged up at the time. They had a couple players who were banged up, and you can't look at a schedule and look at a team like Lake Braddock and say that's not exciting. I think that's something you guys look forward to.
Of course it is. It's almost like a Westfield.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean,
We've played them, last couple years, and it's always a tight game. And I don't know if there was a star next to it, but it's an important game for us and where we want to be. It's a good barometer, I think.
Well, head coach Warren Williams, senior Morgan Benz, and senior Kate Tysinger, thank you for joining us on the Fairfax Sports Report.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
good luck in the rest of the season.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Stay tuned. Coming up, we have lacrosse and baseball to talk about, so do not leave. Come on right back. Welcome back to the Fairfax Sports Report. I'd like to thank Coach William and his Centerville Wildcats for coming in as guest studio. Watch out for them for the remainder of the season and states. Despite their many games over the next couple weeks, they should be a dominant force come playoff time. They could be hosting another regional or state banner.
You never know.
Now, right now, it's time to get your lacrosse fix on. We are going to give you the Fairfax or the FSN Lacrosse Report, where we talk all about basically the same 10 teams every single week over and over again. Paul, what's going on the guys' side?
All right, starting with the boys in the FSN Lacrosse Report, sponsored by Triple Edge Lacrosse. Starting off in the boys, we have Robinson with 22 first-place votes. That's all the first-place votes with 220 points. They are previous number 1. You're going to see a pattern here. Langley at number 2 with 188 points. Previously, John, number 2. Westfield at number 3. Previously number 3. They have 155 points. Now, Westfield recently with losses to Robinson and Oakton, though still number 3 in the rankings. Woodson with 150 points at number 4. Oakton rounding out the top 5 with 147 points. Again, we're seeing a trend, previously number 5. Hayfield with 97 points, previously number 6. Madison at 7 with 93, previously number 7. We have a little switch up here. Yorktown number 8 with 55, but Chantilly leapfrogging Thomas Jefferson. Previously they were number 10 with 52 points. Now they're number 9. Jefferson rounding out the top 10 with 37 points.
Are you sure that's not a misprint right there with the
No,
little
we
switch?
have a change in the rankings.
Look out. Well, now we're going to talk about the girls' side, where it's been predominantly dominated by 2 different teams. At the top, you're going to see Oakton. They received 15 first-place votes for a total of 158 points. Last week, they were first. Second is Robinson. They had 137 points. Again, they were second last week. This week, they beat Chantilly. In third, you have Loudoun Valley with 120 points. Last week, they were third. Paul, you have a note on them.
I have a note on Loudoun Valley. They recently beat Broad Run in a Loudoun County showdown. Broad Run just dominates the Dulles District, but they are dominating the Dulles District because Loudoun Valley left the Dulles District last year for the AAA National District, a matchup between the 2 Loudoun powerhouses with Loudoun Valley coming out on top.
Finishing up your top 10, at 4 you have Yorktown. They also had 112 points. Last week they were 4th. 5th is West Springfield. Now they received 1 first-place vote from a coach. They have 91 points right now. Last week they were 5th. The Spartans this year so far are undefeated. Their closest game has been by 3 goals, as most of their contests have been decided by 7 or more. The Spartans could make some noise, but watch out come mid-district play.
Now, John, you mentioned undefeated. Why number 5 then?
If you look at their schedule, they haven't quite faced the upper echelon teams yet. It's kind of hard to judge a squad when they haven't faced the top competition, but if you're beating the teams that you should beat, that says a lot about a true winning team. Now, at 6, we have Langley Saxons. They had 74 points. Last week they were 6th. Earth-shattering change here at 7 with Chantilly. They had 58 points. Last week they were in 8th place.
Now, Chantilly, and one thing you can notice is they're number 7 in the rankings, but you see here, number 3 from the Concord District. Obviously, the Concord District is a very lacrosse-heavy district with Oakton and Robinson on both the boys and girls side dominating the girls lacrosse poll, dominating the polls. In the girls lacrosse poll, number 8 is Woodson with 50 points. Previously, they were number 7. Annandale coming in at number 9 with 34 points. Previously, they were number 9. And Lake Braddock with 13 points coming in in the top 10.
Now, coming up this week, folks, we have the FSN Game of the Week. It pits 2 top 5 squads. We have number 4 Woodson at number 2 Langley, April or tomorrow at 7:15, weather permitting. Check out your umbrella forecast, as it is expected to thunder and lightning a lot. But Paul, tell me a little bit about the Saxons.
Obviously, 2 great teams. Starting off with Langley, right now undefeated at 7-0. You see on the screen there. They are number 2 currently. Coach Earl Brewer's team with key players. Brendan Blood, a senior attack. Brendan has 14 goals, 5 assists, 22 ground balls, and an average of 2.3 goals per game. You got Owen Masters, a junior midfielder, 22 ground balls, 46 faceoffs won. He is a 66.7% in faceoffs. One thing you notice here from these two key players for the Saxons, the ground balls and the faceoffs. The goals are flashy, assists are flashy, but these ground balls and these faceoffs, getting possession for your team is key, and that's a reason that Langley is right now 7-0.
Now, Langley will be facing Woodson. The Cavaliers come in with a record of 4-3. Now, don't be fooled by that, as 3 of their losses have come to Robinson, who's currently the #1 team in the land. The Rams last week beat private powerhouse Gonzaga, so they are legit and you're defending state champions. Woodson has also lost to Apex High School, a school out of North Carolina, and Landon, another private powerhouse. So again, do not be fooled by that 4-3 mark. Coach John Fitzgerald has players that he's relying on. Ross Fernandez, their senior keeper that has kept them in a lot of games this year. Robbie Robertson, their senior attackman, scored many, many goals this year. And Reed Mayberry, another senior attackman. The Woodson is definitely senior-laden. They are hungry. And I would venture to say, Paul, that they are looking to exact some revenge and show that they are much, much better than a 3-loss team.
And in a few moments, we will have BJ Kubarulis on with us. Now, BJ, obviously, you know, the host here, keeping us all in check. We're going to have him on the phone to talk about this upcoming game of the week. And BJ, I believe we have you on the phone. How are you doing, BJ?
I'm about to lose my job over there. You're doing a spectacular job over there, Paul.
Well, you know, yeah, that's how we run things, me and John, you know, trying to keep things afloat while you are working hard.
John must have read my cheat sheet there, because he's talking about Ross Fernandez and Robbie Robertson and Reed Mayberry. John, you must have been logged into my email or something, getting some stats.
I don't know what cheat sheet you're talking about, BJ. not at all.
When
So,
you
let's talk about these two teams here in the FSN Game of the Week. #4 Woodson against #2 Langley. What are some of the key points that you think are going to be the beneficial to the outcome of this game?
Well, when you look at both teams, obviously coaching plays a big part. You've got Earl Brewer at Langley that's been there forever. John Fitzgerald started the Woodson program over 20 years ago. And so coaching is going to play a big part. These guys look at each other all the time. They've been in overtime games before where they'll just look over at each other. I was talking to Coach Brewer about it, and they'll just start laughing because they've been in those situations before. Like I think you guys were talking about the '06 Liberty Final where Woodson won that game in overtime. I was actually there. Brandon Butler scored his 7th goal in overtime to win that game. He's playing at Army now and actually doing a fantastic job as a freshman playing at Army. But in this game, to answer your question, it's going to be about goal play in the goal. You mentioned Ross Fernandez for Woodson. And it's going to be about effort on the field. These teams, the #4 ranked team in Woodson, and John, you said it best, you know, they're not a 3-loss team. And Langley, the #2 ranked team by Triple Edge Lacrosse, these are teams that they've got the skill. Everybody knows they've got the skill. But it's all about who's going to come out that night. And I think a lot has to do with coaching, a lot has to do with effort, and going after those 50-50 balls and the little things they teach you in practice.
Now, BJ, looking at the Triple Edge Lacrosse standings with Oakton sitting there at #1, you see Langley at #2, Woodson at #4. With these two teams playing, is this kind of a game for second place with Oakton dominating the Northern region?
Well, I wouldn't say that Oakton's dominating the Northern region. I'd say that they're just one of the usual suspects, along with Robinson and Westfield, and then you've got your Woodsons and your Langleys. But you look at this game, and you think it's for, or what it's been for at least the last several years, it's always a precursor to who's going to win the Liberty District. I was doing a little bit of math today. Woodson's won the last 6 since '97. No, rather, Woodson has won 6 titles in the Liberty since '97. Langley's won 4. Woodson's won the last 3, and we mentioned that overtime thriller last year with Brandon Butler scoring 7 goals. So in the Liberty District, it's always Woodson and Langley. Last year, Langley won the regular season game. Woodson won in the Liberty District final. The year before that, Woodson won 11-4, and then just barely squeaked by the Liberty District final with a 7-6 victory over Langley. So I did a little more math looking back at this thing. Woodson has outscored Langley in this game 110-77 since the 2001 season, and the average margin of victory in each game for either team has been 3 goals a game. So it's been a close one, and it's been one that has always been the precursor really to the Liberty District Final. Out of those, since 2001, out of those years, it's not been Langley and Woodson only twice, but Woodson has been in the final both of those other times. Langley's the only other team to have won a district final, and they did so in the 03 season when they beat Woodson 10-7. So it's you asked me what this game means. It's a precursor to the Liberty District Final.
All right, Professor. Well, I apologize. I misspoke. I meant to talk about Robinson with 22 first-place votes, number 1 in the FSN Triple Edge Lacrosse polls. Now, John, I believe you have a question for the professor.
Yes. Now, BJ, I have no numbers to crunch on this one. Why do you think the coaches are giving Woodson so much respect with the 3 losses? I mean, we've had discussions about this. I'm a big fan of you rank a team based on how you are currently doing and not what you may be doing in the future. How come you think Woodson has remained in the top 5?
Well, you look at John Fitzgerald. This guy is lacrosse in the northern region, and he's going to have these kids performing by the end of the year. And you know, John, I mean, to mention them with the top 5, I'd put them even higher at some points, just looking at the fact that they always come up big in the postseason. And they're a team that could have gone really far last year. They just ran into a couple of tough teams. You look at Langley coming into this game, a 7-0 record. They're the number 2 ranked team. They're led by Brendan Blood, a senior attack. He's got 14 goals, 5 assists, 22 ground balls, and he's scoring about 2.5 goals a game. So that's the reason that Langley's up in the top. And then on the other side, you look at Woodson. You asked me why they're a top 5 team. I mentioned Coach Fitzgerald, but look at Ross Fernandez. This guy is one of the best goalies in the northern region that gets absolutely no love or no credit because they've always been a team that can score a lot. But on the flip side of that, their defense is unbelievable, led by Ross Fernandez. He wasn't even a goalie 2 years back, and last year he finally got his start in goal. But midway through the season, he's a big-bodied kid. He gets between the pipes, and he's got quick hands. And I saw him play against Robinson, and he was absolutely fantastic. So, and that was a close game. That was 8-7, all the way down to the wire. And that was a fantastic performance. Ross Fernandez's coming out party. One other thing you look at when you look at this game, they've shared a common opponent this year, among many, but one common opponent that you can look at that may be telling in this game. Both of these teams faced off with Apex, North Carolina, and from Raleigh, North Carolina. They won the state a couple of years back in North Carolina, made a name for themselves. And Langley beat Apex 7-3, and the sophomore goalie, Galen Cooney, had 11 saves in that game. He's got 49 on the season. But then you look at Woodson, they lost that game 10-4. So I don't know if that game tells us anything or if it's an enigma, but that should be the game that people look at to say, hey, how do these teams stack up?
BJ, looking strictly at records, we saw this earlier in the season when Westfield played Oakton. Langley playing Woodson, Langley 7-0, Woodson 3-3. Is this a bit of a trap game for Langley?
It absolutely is, and I'm glad somebody said it because it really is. I mean, you look at like you and I were both at the Oakton-Westfield game, and Oakton went into that game with a 1-4 record, and Westfield had already had over 5 victories on the season. So everybody thought, hey, Oakton's down. This is Westfield's year. But you got to look at the fact of who Oakton played. Oakton played Robinson, DeMatha, Archbishop Spalding, and another private school powerhouse coming into the season. So that's why they were ranked so low. But don't get fooled by records in this one. When it's Woodson and Langley, as I mentioned, a 3-goal difference over the last couple of years since 2001, it's always a close game. And as I mentioned earlier, it's all about, number 1, coaching, and number 2, 50-50 balls and leaving it all out on the field, if I can actually say that, because I hate it when coaches say that, but I'll go ahead and say that. It's all about who leaves it all out there, and absolutely, it's absolutely a physical game when these two get together. It's like a heavyweight fight, and I love watching these physical matchups.
Well, BJ Kubarulis, FSN senior writer, on the phone. BJ, anything else on your mind before we let you go?
Hey, man, I'm just worried about getting my job back if you guys keep up this good job. Keep up the good work, gentlemen, and hopefully I'll be back in the studio as fast as I can be. But it sounds like you guys are holding down the fort over there at the Fairfax Sports Report.
Very nice. Thanks, BJ.
I'll catch up with you guys.
One thing that I want to, that BJ mentioned, which I mentioned before, the 50-50 balls. I think Langley has the advantage there with Blood with 22 ground balls, Masters also with 22 ground balls. That's something that's important in these really close games is you have to have possession to score. Obviously, I think Langley has the advantage.
They certainly do based on those stats. For keen lacrosse observers, they will know that ground balls and faceoffs win and lose lacrosse games. You can gain momentum. You could score 3 goals by getting faceoff, 3 steps, pass, goal, bam. Game changes.
Yeah.
But you need the ground balls, you need the faceoffs. But it sounds like Woodson Langley should be a doozy there tomorrow night for the professor, Mr. Cooper Rules.
With his calculator, we'd like to thank BJ and bring you back into the FSN Lacrosse Report sponsored by Triple H Lacrosse with the top 10 rankings. On the boys' side, you see here, we talked about it before, Robinson, all the first place votes, 22 first place votes at 220 points. Again, previously, they were number 1. Langley, one half of that Langley-Woodson battle tomorrow. They are in second place with 188 points. You see Westfield that you mentioned, we mentioned Westfield losing to Oakton earlier in the season. Westfield above Oakton right now, though, with 155 points. Woodson, the next half of the big battle tomorrow, 150 points. Previously, they're number 4. Right now, they are at number 4. See Oakton there rounding out the top 5, 147 points. You got Hayfield, Madison, Yorktown, Chantilly, and Thomas Jefferson in the last 5. The only change is Chantilly leapfrogs over Thomas Jefferson to take the 9th place in the poll.
Now, Paulie, on the girls' side, Oakton still sits atop at number 1. They received all 15 first place points. Robinson sits there at second with 137 points. For inquiring minds that want to know, Oakton beat Robinson by a couple of goals earlier in the season, so that's why they're up on them. Loudoun Valley sits third with 120 points. Last week, third as well. Yorktown is fourth with 112 points, fourth as well. West Springfield, watch out for the Spartans. Could be a sleeper. They are fifth with 91 points, also fifth last week. Then we have Langley, Chantilly, Woodson, Annandale, and Lake Braddock rounding out your top 5. Paul, from what the games that you've seen so far, who do you think could be a sleeper? I mean, I've called out my sleeper on West Springfield. What teams in your beat or that you've seen could pose problems for the upper echelon?
I make it known that I am in love with Robinson. I love what they're doing, but a sleeper is I see with Westfield. May not be a sleeper, you see them at number 3, but they played Robinson into overtime, and they had Robinson beat until Robinson turned it on and came back to win. I like Westfield. I like the Bulldogs in that tough Concord district. It kind of hardens teams, the Concord district, and I think that's going to give them a lot of momentum going on into the tournaments.
Now, you mentioned Robinson. You can't, in my opinion, judge it too much on Westfield got up on them. That seems to kind of be Robinson's MO. They fell behind to Woodson early, came back, won that game, first game of the season. Against Gonzaga last week, they fell behind early by a couple of goals, came back in the third, dominated the fourth. When you have a team that's experienced as Woodson, and they've got the ring that says we're the best and we're number 1, they have the chip on their shoulder, but they know they are that good. A lot of times, they might come out a little slow, just not really. It's just something about certain teams that they're not fast started, but they can close. I would, as a coach, much rather have a closing team than a beginning team. So the Rams, they're very good and they're very talented. That's an understatement. They do have one Mr. Matt Kugler, though, and he is a difference maker on them.
You mentioned the ring. Oakton has 3 rings. Robinson 1 right now, looking to gain ground on the Cougars this year. Now, I'm going to pose the same question. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to flip it on you. I'm going to pose the same question on the girls' side. Who do you think right now has the best chance of beating Oakton?
Oakton is just so dominant in that girls' side. I mean, they received all 15 first-place votes. I give the West Springfield coach that keeps on giving them 1 vote a nice pat on the back. If you look at their games, they are averaging double-digit goals, don't give up many goals at all, not playing close games. I keep touting West Springfield, and I don't mean to just be a West Springfield hound, but the Spartans definitely on paper look like a team that could challenge Oakton, but once you get 2 teams on the field, I mean, they're not going to play each other anytime soon. One's in the Patriot District, one's in the Concord District, so it'd come regional and state times if they did play. But the Spartans, watch out for them. Paul, for you, which girls' team do you think could pose some issues?
Well, thank you for asking, John. I'm going to take Loudoun Valley. And I may be partial because they cover Loudoun County, but Loudoun Valley, I believe I read somewhere recently, they have beaten 3 undefeated teams this year throughout the season, and most recently beating Broad Run. I've covered Broad Run, the girls team, Dulles District defending champs, quite a bit this year. And beating Broad Run is a big deal for Loudoun Valley. Loudoun Valley used to run the Dulles District. Coming into the National District, they have great spring sports with softball, with lacrosse, and I think Loudoun Valley has the best chance to kind of surprise Oakton and move up there.
Now, I have an opinion on this. Let me get yours. How do you think the close schedule is really going to affect a lot of these teams? I mean, inclement weather, rain delays, even snow outs, wind outs have caused a lot of games to just be delayed, postponed. Some of these teams are ending up playing 3, 4 games in a 5, 6, 7, 8-day span. I mean, what is that going to do to the high school legs?
Well, it all depends on, I believe, coaching. Coaches can take it two ways. They can maintain the normal practice schedule, work their girls, and I think that might tire them out. We saw Warren Williams here today saying, he's going to try to keep his girls relaxed, keep them rested up because, 7 or 8 games in a 2-week, 2.5-week period can really tire teams out. And then you mentioned momentum. Usually in a regular season, you could lose momentum, maybe drop a couple games, then build it back up. If you lose momentum now in the second half of the season, you could lose 4 games within a week, and that's definitely not something that these teams want to do.
Well, I'm going to call it right now, today. I think some of these top teams in both the boys and girls are going to trip up over the next couple of weeks simply due to the fact that they're going to play so many games. And you can have momentum, and you could be really up for one game, and then all of a sudden, the very next game, face a good team but not a great team 1 or 2 days later and just not bring it, and you're going to fall behind by too much, and the legs are just going to be too tired. I see many changes in the boys and girls rankings coming. Come states and region times, it's going to all even out, but expect big things from the lower echelon teams versus the higher echelon teams because when you're up at the top, you know you're good. You know you're real good. And just to bring it for every game when you have so many throughout a short time span, I don't see it happening. Expect losses all around the board from various teams.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we will be back with the Fairfax Sports Network's Athlete of the Week. You guys go ahead and stay tuned. We'll be right back in a second. Welcome back to the Fairfax Sports Report. Just to recap, I am Paul Frumelt from the Connection Newspapers, sitting next to John Marcario, also of the Connection Newspapers. We recently had BJ Kubarulis on the phone, usually sits in that chair right over there, missing right now out on assignment. He should be back next week. Moving into the Fairfax Sports Network's Athlete of the Week. The Athlete of the Week this week is the Westfield Bulldogs softball team's Allie Heon. Now, right now, Westfield is sitting at 9-2 in the Concord District. Obviously, her sport is softball. She also plays field hockey. Now, Heon right now is hitting .450 with 2 home runs, 5 doubles, and no errors, sitting at second base. She has already committed to play softball at Villanova. Now, Heon also has a great swing in softball, a great field hockey player as well, and her 4 years playing field hockey at Westfield, she has averaged over 10 goals and 10 assists each year. Allie Heon, your FSN Athlete of the Week.
Heon looks like a great player for Westfield, but now it's time to talk a little baseball, and for you baseball nuts like me, we are getting into the die-hard district playoff time, not playoff, but district chase into the playoffs. Love this time of the year. Great games happening seemingly every single night. Here is your Northern Region top 10 as voted by the coaches. Sitting there at the top, Paul, is what team?
You see Madison, nationally ranked. This is Madison. It's the Warhawk baseball right now, and they are playing it. Currently, they are ranked number 4 in the nation by Sports Illustrated and Rise magazine. Number 14th by the USA Today. Number 14th by Baseball America, and sitting at number 1 in our Northern Region coaches poll and the Washington Post top 10, Madison. They keep chugging along, just beat Stonebridge 10-1, just beat McLean 11-1. Taking care of business in the Liberty District.
Gotta love teams at TKB. Sitting there at numero dos is Lake Braddock's Bruins. They have been second for a while now this season. They just keep on winning baseball games, folks. They had wins over South County on Saturday and Lee last week. Tonight they're playing TC Williams. Should be another win for them. They have a tough 2-game stretch, though, as they face West Springfield and Hayfield in the coming days. Watch out for that little trap game against Hayfield.
Coming at number 3, Oakton. Number 4, Langley. Number 5, Chantilly. Now, Chantilly, that was a team that was just hot at the beginning of the season. Unbeaten a couple weeks in. They lost three over spring break, and have recently dropped games to Westfield 4-5, 5-4, Oakton 5-1. So right now, Chantilly sitting at 10-5 and number 5 in our Northern Region poll. Coming in at number 6, John, is Robinson.
Robinson, they had an impressive win over Westfield yesterday. It was kind of a get-well win for them as they had a tough stretch with back-to-back losses against Oakton and the Chantilly Chargers, who just win at everything apparently. But when you face Oakton, Chantilly, and Westfield back-to-back, getting one win is nothing to hang your head about. Sitting 7th is South County. They had a very important 11-2 win over Hayfield on Monday, as Jesse Beal threw a complete game 6-hitter in which he dominated, had 11 strikeouts for the Stallions. Big win for them. Watch out, as they should be moving up in the rankings. A little note on South County real quick. Mike Graham, their stud pitcher who's been out most of the year with shoulder tendonitis for pitching, he still is on first base for the Stallions, is unknown when he will return to the mound all year. There is no set time frame for that. That could hamper their playoff chases just a bit.
Now, Stonebridge sitting there at number 8. Stonebridge, I mentioned, recently lost to Madison. Can't fault them for that. They had also recently beat our number 4 team you see there, Langley. Stonebridge has been hot. And what Coach Sam Plank told me is, if you finish second in the Liberty District, it's like finishing first because you're going to get a regional playoff berth. If they win out, meaning beating Langley again, they will finish second and get that berth. That's what head coach Sam Plank's squad is going for. Looking over at number 9, Westfield. Like I mentioned, they beat Chantilly after a devastating loss to Centerville, and Yorktown rounds out your top 10.
Now, introducing our next segment, the Loudon Report. For all you Loudon folks, Frummelt is going to bring the heat right now. Paul, take it away.
All right, well, the Potomac Falls boys soccer team is back on track. I know you all worried about them. They are back on track, folks. After ties to Heritage and Loudoun County during spring break, Potomac Falls has won 3 straight, outscoring their opponents 18-1. The defending AA state champs are back on track. Watch out, Dulles District. In baseball, Heritage beat Loudoun County 7-0, and Heritage beat Broad Run, 7-0, and Parkview beat Loudoun County 1-0 in 11 innings. There's 5 teams now currently in the Dulles District with an over 500 record. The standings are right now in the Dulles District: Parkview at 8-2, Loudoun County at 6-2, Broad Run 7-3, and Potomac Falls and Heritage at 5-4. A real close race right now in the Dulles District. One last note in girls lacrosse. I mentioned before, Broad Run, a hot team in girls lacrosse in the Dulles District, demolished Dominion, who most consider the second best team in the Dulles District. The game wasn't even close. Broad Run scored 6 goals in the second half, shutting out Dominion in the second half. Head coach Don Gasser told me that there is no doubt that Broad Run is the best team in this district. And that is your Loudoun Report for this week, folks. Don't worry, I'll be back next week for more Loudoun goodness.
Your goodness cannot trump my madness, which begins right now, folks. New York City caused a stir earlier this week when they banned the use of metal bats effective in next September. This has been a long-standing debate between the pros and cons of those who support the use of metal bats and those who don't support the use of metal bats. Now, you can almost hear the grumbles from people in the northern region thinking if this should be implemented in the region itself. I, for one, fully advocate and support the people that say it should not be banned in the northern region. At the next level, the colleges, they use metal bats. At the professional rank, they use wooden bats. I think it is completely unfair to make kids switch from wooden bats to metal bats and back to wooden bats. One can argue that you never truly understand the value of a player's worth while using a metal bat compared to a wooden bat. I think that is a debate that should be used for the college level and not the high school level. Now, I feel deeply and sorry for people that have been injured by a metal bat, but the bottom line is playing sports is risky. It is much more dangerous to face a high school pitcher that has a 90-mile-an-hour fastball with no control over it than a kid that uses a metal bat. In any given sport, sports are dangerous, as I've said. I don't hear people grumbling whether the use of a certain baseball should be banned or whether baseball should be padded a little bit more. When players get hurt, it hurts. Or when players get hit, it hurts. They get plunked on the head, they get plunked on the wrist, they leave bruises. It needs to be iced down. Also, with the use of metal bats, there's a small problem with them. They break frequently. This puts another strain on already depleted athletic departments to either buy them or have parents purchase numerous bats throughout the course of the year. The bottom line is sports are dangerous. There is a reason when spectators, yes, spectators, are told to watch their surroundings when attending a baseball game. With banning the use of metal bats, where does it end? Should we ban the use of deep pocket mitts? Should we ban the use of certain baseballs? Why don't we just have players stand up there with a plastic bat wrapped around with foam while using a wiffle ball?
All right, John, so obviously you're crazy. You have some kind of madness. I don't understand it. Yes, you're right, and you mentioned wooden bats broke. You said metal bats break.
Yeah.
Wooden bats are the ones, obviously, that break. Now, you're right about colleges have metal bats, so it's kind of strange to go from wooden to metal back to wooden. But I think both college and high schools should use wooden bats. You mentioned, yes, a 90-mile-per-hour fastball. I don't know if high school kids that throw that. If they do, though, that is dangerous. But a ball is coming off the bat so much faster, and it is dangerous. Sports are dangerous, but why make them more dangerous when a simple solution could make them less dangerous? Well, football's dangerous, so don't worry about a helmet kind of thing. I believe that metal bats are a danger. People do get injured, and wooden bats are just the way to go for baseball. I love the crack of a bat, not the clang of a metal bat. We will have a story on this in next week's Connection newspapers, talking to coaches around the area and what they think. It doesn't matter what us two knuckleheads think. It matters what the top coaches in the Northern region think. So look for that story in next week's Connection newspapers.
Now, I disagree with your point a little bit with metal bats. I mean, yes, the ball comes out there fast, but I don't have any stats on this, but I'm fairly certain more football players or basketball players have been injured on the field or in practice just by being out there than anybody that's been injured from a metal bat. Football players have been paralyzed. Some have actually died on the field itself. You could really count the number of players that have been that injured by a metal bat, probably on one hand, many, many more for football. Once you start banning certain things, as I said, it doesn't end there. You're going to, again, find a certain kind of shoe that you won't like. I mean, they're not allowed to use metal spikes. What about this next kind of shoe? Certain baseballs might be wound tightly. Why don't you just ban that one? Certain mitts are bigger than other mitts. Just ban the mitt. I mean, you cannot start banning things without having a blanket policy. I'll let you get in there. Like I said, I completely support a blanket ban on the metal bats. But you and I both know that will not happen, so you can't keep on switching from wood to metal to wood.
I agree, and you mentioned ban. I don't think of it as banning these dangerous metal bats. I think of it as changing to wooden bats. And aside from the injuries, which is definitely an important part of this argument, I believe that if we have players in the Northern, you see players such as Brandon Snyder from Westfield going straight into the MLB draft. Players like Joe Koshansky, all playing in college and then moving on to the minor league level. They should be ready to deal with the wooden bats where balls don't go further. A home run off a metal bat would be a long fly out off of a wooden bat. I think they should be ready if they choose to, be ready to have the wooden bats if they choose to go on to the next level.
I think our choice of words, my use of banning, shows my more edgy side. Your use of changing is Paul is just a nice, it's big teddy bear.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we're just going to have to agree to disagree, as always, on this subject.
Of course we do. Well, as we're wrapping things up, folks, let's thank the people that have made this show possible. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the FSN Game of the Week, Boys Lacrosse, Madison at WT Woodson. It will air on...
It has aired.
It has aired, actually. This week on Channel 10 also will be the Woodson and Langley game on tomorrow.
So make sure to check out on Cox On Demand, Madison at Woodson.
We are also on the web, FSN on the web, fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Bios, picks galore. Check them out because you can find out all kinds of fun stuff about people.
If you're missing BJ, go take a look at some pictures of him.
Special thanks to our teammates, CCI Screen Printing, for all your screen printing needs. Give them a call at 703-978-0257. Next up is Quality Care Service Center, servicing all makes and models. Give them a call at 703-383-6299. And our final teammate is Triple Edge Lacrosse. Visit their website at www.tripleedgelax.com. Now, Paul, as we wrap things up, give me a nugget for people to chew on for the coming week.
A nugget? Well, let's see. I think a good nugget is that I believe, we talked with Coach Williams, I believe that the Centerville girls soccer team will go undefeated, and I'm not trying to jinx anybody. I think they will go undefeated this year.
Impressive, bold statement. There's a good soccer game, if it gets taken place tomorrow, between Fairfax and Robinson. The Rams are hungry after their loss to Lake Braddock yesterday. Fairfax is hot this year, having only lost 2 games. Look for Robinson to come out of that game smoking, reassert themselves, and show why they are the dominant team in the Northern region. BJ, what do you think?
Thanks, BJ.
Thanks, BJ.
I am Paul Frummelt. This is John Marcario. BJ Cubarillas to our right. Thank you for watching us. We'll be back next week.